to the next section, we have the wonderful Philip Westcott, who has been leading the Access to Elected Office Fund. And following that, he's going to introduce you to Paul Alchurch and Kevin Harry, who are standing for elected office. I, of course, always think that I do that sitting down. But without further ado, I give you Philip Westcott. Thank you very much. Ta-da!
Okay for you? What's the tape on the floor?
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Prynhawn da, good afternoon all. My name's Philip Westcott. I had the great privilege in January 2021 to be given the role of Civic Participation Officer with Disability Wales. And the main task of my job was to set up and get it running the Access to Elected Office Fund for Wales, which is a scheme funded by Welsh Government and administered by Disability Wales and following all the social model of disability and co-production were at its core. I know we're running a little bit of time, so I won't go over some of the figures that Sean mentioned earlier, some of the statistics in terms of disabled people's participation in public life. But I think the main point is that our political institutions are missing out on the talent, the experience and the knowledge of a large section of up to a fifth of the population of the country, and that is a waste in anybody's ways. So the fund is more specific than the Equal Power, Equal Voice scheme in that it was aimed at removing the barriers that disabled candidates face in elections and disabled people getting elections. And it was limited to the election period. And though there have been previous funds in the United Kingdom covering UK-wide elections, this particular fund related to those elections that were devolved to Wales. So that's the Senedd and the local council elections within Wales. And it's the first time a fund was set up for that. What I will quickly cover is some of the achievements of that fund, some of the challenges and what needs to be done in the future before I hand over, quite importantly, to two of the candidates that received assistance from that fund. So the first achievement of the fund was in a quite quick time scale to get a scheme set up initially for the Senedd Cymru, and we only had a sort of couple of months time scale to get that set up. The big achievement there was that even in that quick time scale, we managed to get two candidates assisted by the fund and enabled to stand in those elections. We then went over the summer to develop the scheme further and publicise the scheme, develop the scheme, make it more accessible, make it more useful, and develop the knowledge and skills that we needed there. And that was done with the assistance, and what we greatly benefited was the scheme was it was a co-produced scheme, and we quickly recruited a panel of people with lived experience of disability and making reasonable adjustments. I was going to list all the names, but I know we're running a bit short of the time. But in particular, I would like to say how robust that panel was. It was challenging conversations, and all the members of that panel worked together quite strongly. And I would particularly mention the late Vin West, who everybody in the panel I know missed his contributions towards the end of the scheme there. Other great achievements, I think, was working with Welsh Government. We managed to persuade Welsh Government to include the grassroots level of democracy, which is the community councils in the scheme. I should have mentioned that in the local council elections this year, we actually got 18 applicants. We made 17 awards. A few of those candidates did not take up the awards, partly because they were elected unopposed, or there were other reasons that didn't do it. And we were only unable to provide support to one candidate because of a lack of PAs in that area. So we actually ended up providing support to 13 candidates, which for a pilot scheme set up during lockdown in such tough circumstances was really quite remarkable. But in terms of the panel, Wyn West made a fantastic contribution, and all the members of that panel made a fantastic contribution and really set a good grounding for this to go forward in the future. We also managed to get community councils included within the scheme, which is the first time any country has done something at that grassroots level, and it's so important because that is the level that politicians get an apprenticeship in politics. They get to learn their political skills, and they also get to build networks. They get to know how things work, and they then go on to be county councillors. They get become Senate members. They go on to become MPs. And we were successful during the local council elections in getting 6 disabled members elected to their community councils, and I'm sure they will go on in future to become Senate members, county councillors, and hopefully First Ministers. I think the other great achievement of the scheme was, during lockdown, it was a great challenge to get the message of the scheme out there. And what we did, we used online tools to do that, and that included the use of Zoom meetings. And the great achievement there was that we were able to get disabled activists from across Wales together to share their experiences, to publicise what they need to do to campaign, what the idea of the social model, what reasonable adjustments they could reasonably ask for in a campaign, and get across it. And we made connections across Wales and across political parties there. And I think that's a valuable thing that we want to build on in the future. The other thing that we managed to achieve was to use social media to publicise the fact that it shouldn't be abnormal for disabled people to stand for election, get involved in politics, and get involved. So we had a number of people, with the assistance of Claudia there, we videoed a number of people talking about their experience and getting their experience of political life, getting involved in politics, what reasonable adjustments were. And that greatly improved the profile. So we achieved nearly 50,000 social media impressions with that campaign, and those videos are all on YouTube, and I would recommend people go to see it because it was a really powerful campaign. And we run that alongside a Your Power, Your Say campaign to get young and newly qualifying foreign nationals to register to vote and stand for the vote. And that received a similar forward. And we had people like Josh Reeves, who you saw earlier, doing that, and other social media young influencers like Sasha, Emily Nicole and Jake as well were involved in that. And again, I think that began to get the message across. And that's also on YouTube, and I'd recommend people have a look at those messages and the impact they had. I'll try and keep some of the things shorter now, but some of the challenges we faced included getting the message out there during a period of lockdown. We were greatly helped by assistance from Inclusion Scotland in getting the scheme set up in the first place. And as I said, members of the panel who really gelled from the beginning there. In actually delivering the scheme, so what I haven't mentioned is the type of support we could provide. We sought to provide things like personal assistance. So if you're facing physical barriers, going up steps to trying to get to a door when you can do it, we were able to provide personal assistance to do that. We were able to provide assistive technology where people had issues in terms of recording and canvas records and things like that. We were able to look at providing support with proofreading of electoral literature and the like, and we're also able to provide taxis, accessible taxis for people who were unable to use public transport or suffer from fatigue issues because of their impairment. So there's a whole range, and there's other things there as well. One of the things we didn't end up providing support was communication support, and there are issues with BSL users there in terms of getting there, and that is something we need to develop in the future. Just in terms of looking at the future then, I think what we want to do is build on the success of this in the future, because the next elections are 4 or 5 years away that this would apply to. And the scheme was limited in the sense that we could only provide assistance during the 6 weeks of the election campaigns. And as I've said earlier, some of the barriers come well before that time in terms of the selection processes, in terms of if you're a BSL user, how you get involved in political meetings. As one of our speakers was telling me earlier, you know, if the political meeting is down a series of steps that aren't accessible, you can't get involved in there. If you're someone like me, go into a dark bar, trying to navigate a dark bar is difficult. So actually getting involved in the process, let alone the negative attitudes that you might face when you get to those. So we need to look at challenging that in future. So one of the things Disability Wales is looking at and seeking support and funding for is schemes building on the meetings we held and the connections we made in things to build a network of a grassroots network of disabled politics in Wales, which would seek to provide the political skills and the networking people need there, and that peer-peer to support there and develop that, and also give us a tool for co-production of the other elements that we went there, which is we want to produce a access to politics toolkit, which would provide guidance and support to political parties, to disability officers in political parties, to the executives of political parties, to say what an accessible political party or an inclusive political party should be doing, what they should be thinking about, but also provide support and training to local councils, particularly community councils of Ross, so they know what they need to do to be inclusive. And we'd also like to use the network there to work with the political parties so we can get them signed up to an Access to Politics Charter, which would set out those things that are key to get at, whether that's mentoring schemes, whether that's the importance of asking your membership what barriers they face and what reasonable adjustments they need, and the like there. But also we want to work with on the issue of intersectionality, working with those disabled groups who face additional characteristics, who face additional barriers, and see what we can do there, or those groups such as BSL users who face particular problems there and work with that. So that's what we're hoping for the future. But for now, I will hand you over now to two of the candidates that stood in the local council elections. First of all, we will have Paul Allchurch, who was a Labour candidate in my hometown in Armanford. And then we'll have Kevin Harry, who was a Plaid candidate in the Rhondda. Both of them are active in their political parties, and they're active in public life more generally, and sort of exemplify what we're trying to do in getting talented people into political office. So I shall hand over now to Paul.
No worries. Good afternoon, everyone. Panawn da, pawb. Firstly, can I say how good it's good to see you all here today after the wave of COVID, and thank the Disability Wales for giving this opportunity. It's a great privilege and honour to speak in the 50 years conference, and so far I think a great conference. My name, for you who don't know me, my name is Paul. I come from Carmarthenshire in South West Wales, home of the National Botanic Gardens and the Dylan Thomas Centre in my area. My story, I have a mission in life to make a difference in all I do, and equality is one of the key core values that drive me forward in that mission. Take a breath. Equality is very much embedded in all stages and all parts of life. Every day from public appointment, and is key to democracy within Wales, and it's no exception in public life. For me, the equality is very much a living concept and very much out there, and resonates the values of diversity, inclusion, and those with protective characteristics and disability in the context of seen ability and not disability. I can personally connect to this as I have bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder and dyslexia, which is also my paid job with Diverse Company as well, as a BME for company, as a mental health practitioner. As I said, making differences is all about making that thing. Me, as myself, and all of us will be change makers in that process. And that's why I've been working with the Equal Voice, Equal Power programme. The Equal Power Voice has been a fantastic programme. It gave me the confidence, the skills, and to achieve my long-term ambition, to live the dream of public life. As a result of being involved with the programme, in May this year, I was selected as County Councillor candidate for Bestos. Didn't get as County Councillor, but I got as Community Councillor, which public life is an honour and duty, and more than just a job. Also, in addition to that, I have been selected as an Equality Officer for Carmarthen East and Never, CLP, and that is a great honour again for in addition, I've been selected. And the long-term ambition is to be a Senate member and live the dream and be service for the people for Wales of my constituency and Carmarthen East and Never. So watch this space. In summary, I want to leave with a quote. For those who are thinking about doing public life or in any shape or form, from boards, political thing, just go for it. Don't let what stop you in your past. Just grab the opportunity and grab it with your hands and go with it. It gives me the confidence and opportunity to get where I am today, and hopefully my journey will continue into the journey into public life and beyond. And as I said, and not let the past stop you, and just grab what you can do. So that's basically it. That's me. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start today by thanking Disability Wales for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. So thank you, Disability Wales. Now, in my opinion, the more people from the disabled community come forward to speak about their circumstance, the better. Because in my view, it's all about educating the non-disabled about the barriers disabled people face. This is why I'm a local authority school governor. I've got involved on one of my groups in my local social housing associations, and I'm active in local politics, and my political party is a disability officer. The more disabled people across Wales get involved in public life, the sooner we will create the inclusive Wales we all want. This is why a Disability Wales network made up of people from all backgrounds and all minority and non-minority groups is so very important. Because through a disability network, the disabled community's voice will become much louder, stronger, and harder to ignore. And through a disability network, we can really achieve what the disabled community wants, and that is to be treated fairly and to have the same quality of life and opportunity as the rest of the community. Now, in May of this year, I stood in the local elections to become a councillor for my community in the Rhondda. This was despite the barriers to campaigning I faced, because the built environment has not been designed with those with mobility impairments in mind. The access to elected office fund enabled me to overcome those barriers by funding the reasonable adjustment of a personal assistant to ensure I could leaflet and canvass households with steps and other barriers. Nearly 2 years ago, I became Plaid Cymru's first ever disability officer. Also, the first disability officer that my constituency, the Rhondda, has seen, and the first disability officer that any Plaid Cymru constituency has seen. And 2 days ago, I was tasked with making Plaid Cymru's deaf, disabled and neurodivergent group a fully fledged section within Plaid Cymru. And I'm very proud and honoured to have been given these roles. And it was Plaid who gave me that opportunity, but more importantly, it was my chair of my constituency at the time, Wendy Allsop, who gave me that first opportunity. And that all came from an hour-and-a-half conversation, and she got it. An opportunity that I grabbed with both hands. And I tell you this because I believe that when an opportunity presents itself like that to you as a disabled person, whereby you can shine a light on our disabled community and the barriers we face on a daily basis, you should grab it with both hands. So I'd like to thank Wendy, Rhondda Plaid and Plaid Cymru for that very first opportunity as Disability Officer, because I see myself as a bridge between the disabled community in the Rhondda and the political arena, whereby I can highlight the barriers faced at a party political level and strive to bring an end to those barriers. When I became disability officer for the Rhondda, I made a vow that I would work with any other disability officer or anyone else from that matter, from any other political party or organisation, for the great and good of the disabled community. Not here to play party politics, not to try and get brownie points, but somebody who wants the same as myself, and that is to eradicate the barriers that we in the disabled community face on a daily basis, and somebody who, along with myself, wants to raise the awareness of these barriers that we face. And I want to reaffirm that vow today here in front of you all. And I know that there's other disability officers from other political parties that think the same as myself. So I say, let's work together to raise the awareness that the disabled community needs. And this is also where a disability charter that all political parties sign up to is so very important. Because then we, as political parties and disability officers, are all singing from the same hymn sheet. It's pointless in one party having a different message about disability to the other, because then nothing will get done. Now, in closing, I would just like to thank Rhys Appo and Plaid Cymru for signing up to mentoring me on the Equal Power, Equal Voice scheme, and also for taking one of my ideas on board of giving disabled people who wants to get into politics a pathway by letting me volunteer in his office in the Senedd alongside the Equal Power, Equal Voice scheme. Because in my view, we need as many disabled people as we can in the room when decisions are being taken about disability. Thank you.